The obsidian doors of the Galactic Council chamber slid shut with a low final hum. No alarm sounded. No guards moved. But the silence that followed was heavier than any storm. Inside the vast dome, light from 1,000 distant stars swirled in slow spirals across the ceiling, casting shifting shadows over 12 towering thrones arranged in perfect circles. Each throne held a representative from one of the galaxy's oldest and most powerful species. Their eyes, some glowing, some lidless, some hidden behind veils of energy, fixed on a single figure standing alone in the center of the chamber. Captain Elias Rourke stood on a small floating platform, barefoot, wearing only a plain gray uniform with no rank, no insignia, no weapon. His ship, the Odyssey, hung lifeless beyond the chamber's transparent energy barrier, its engines dark, its comms dead. He had been brought here under false pretenses, a diplomatic summons, they claimed. Peace talks, a chance for Earth to finally join the galactic community after centuries of isolation. But this was no welcome. The Speaker of the Council, Val Reese, rose from the central throne. Tall and crystalline, its body refracted the starlight into sharp, cold beams. When it spoke, its voice echoed not through sound, but through thought, imprinted directly into the minds of all present. Species designation, human. Origin, Sol 3. Classification, quarantined primitive. You stand accused of violating the Veil Accord, of reverse engineering forbidden technologies, of awakening echoes best left buried. How do you answer? Rourke didn't flinch. He didn't look up at the towering alien judges. Instead, he stared at the smooth floor beneath his feet, as if studying the faint reflection of the galaxy above. Then slowly he smiled. You didn't bring me here to accuse me, he said, his voice calm, human, and utterly out of place in this hall of cosmic power. You brought me here because you're afraid. A ripple passed through the chamber. The insectoid delegate from the Krell hive twitched its antennae. The gelatinous envoy from the Umar collective pulsed with uneasy light. Even Valrus paused, its crystalline facets dimming slightly. Afraid? The speaker finally projected, the word laced with disbelief. Of what? You control one planet, one star. Your species has only just learned to leave its cradle. What could you possibly do that threatens the Council? Rourke took a single step forward. The platform didn't wobble. It obeyed him, as if it recognized something in his presence. You think we're new, he said. You think we stumbled into your galaxy by accident. But we didn't. We were kept out, locked away, not because we were weak, but because you knew what we'd become if we remembered. Silence. Then from the outer ring a deep guttural voice broke through. Lies, growled the Vorn hegemony's warlord, scales glinting like black iron. Humans are clever scavengers. Nothing more. You stole warp tech from a crashed scout. You patched together weapons from ruins you don't understand. You are a child playing with fire. Rourke turned to face the warlord. Then why did your scouts vanish near Proxima Centauri last month? Why did 3 of your patrol ships go dark within hours of detecting our signal? You didn't lose them to malfunction. You lost them because they heard something they weren't supposed to. The warlord's eyes narrowed. But he said nothing. Rourke looked back at Val Reese. 3 weeks ago, my team recovered a derelict vessel on the edge of your neutral zone. Inside, we found a data core, fragmented, encrypted, but intact enough. It mentioned a protocol veil. It listed Earth among contained anomalies, and it had a warning. Do not let them remember. A murmur spread through the chamber. Some delegates shifted, others leaned closer. You were never supposed to find that, Valrus admitted, its mental voice quieter now. No, Rourke agreed, but we did. And now I'm here. Not as a prisoner. Not as a beggar for membership. I'm here because you wanted to see if we knew the truth. So let me tell you plainly, we don't know all of it yet, but we're close, and the more you try to hide it, the faster we'll uncover it. He paused, then added, You fear our weapons, our ships, our ambition, but that's not what you should fear. You should fear our patience, our curiosity, our ability to connect dots you thought were erased. For the first time, uncertainty flickered in the Council's collective presence. The Veil Accord had held for over 8,000 cycles. Earth had been watched, monitored, subtly steered away from dangerous knowledge. Humanity's wars, their near extinctions, their struggles, they'd all been allowed. even encouraged to keep them distracted, divided, small, but now a human stood in their most sacred chamber and spoke as if he belonged there. Valrus lowered its head slightly. "What do you want, Captain Rourke?" "Answers," Rourke said. "Not demands. Not threats. Just truth. Why was Earth sealed away? Who decided it? And what are you so desperate to keep us from remembering?" Before the speaker could respond, a soft chime echoed through the chamber. An emergency signal. One of the Gillian envoys, a soft-bodied being with bioluminescent skin, raised a trembling limb. "A transmission," it whispered, its voice like water over stone. "From Sol system, it's broadcasting on the old precursor frequency." Every delegate froze. Rourke's smile returned, faint but certain. "That would be my colleague, Dr. Lena Mirza. She's very good at finding patterns." Valrus turned fully toward him now, its light dimming to a deep violet. "You activated the Xylos beacon." "We didn't activate it," Rourke corrected gently. "We just showed it where to point. The rest is up to you." Outside the chamber, far beyond the ringed planet of Krylos Prime, the stars seemed to hold their breath. The Odyssey remained dark. But deep in Earth's orbit, hidden beneath layers of stealth shielding, Commander Jax Torin watched the long-range sensors flare to life. Dozens of human ships, small, fast, and armed with experimental drives, powered up in silence. Back in the chamber, Rourke stood alone, unarmed, outnumbered, outmatched by every measure. Yet in that moment, he held the full attention of the galaxy's rulers, not through force, not through fear, but through something they had long forgotten, the quiet, unshakable certainty of a species that had been lied to for too long. And the Council, for the first time in millennia, did not know what to do next. While Captain Elias Rourke stood alone in the Galactic Council chamber, thousands of light-years away, Earth held its breath. In a quiet research dome buried beneath the ice of Antarctica, Dr. Lena Mirza stared at a screen filled with shifting symbols. Her fingers moved quickly over the console, eyes sharp with focus. Around her, the hum of cooling systems and the soft beeps of data streams filled the room. She had not slept in 2 days. The message from the derelict scout ship near Proxima Centauri had changed everything. At first it looked like noise, random bursts of energy wrapped in alien code. But Lena saw patterns others missed. She had spent years studying ancient human myths, cross-referencing them with cosmic radiation maps and deep space anomalies. Now that work was paying off. One line of code stood out. Buried under layers of encryption was a star chart. Not just any chart. It pointed to a dead system called Xylos 9, a place erased from all official galactic records. When she ran a simulation, the coordinates aligned perfectly with old Earth legends about a fallen star that brought fire and silence to the sky. Most historians called it myth. Lena knew better. She tapped a command. A 3D projection bloomed above her desk, a ruined planet, its surface cracked and glassed, orbiting a dim red dwarf. Scans showed strange structures, towers shaped like spirals, half buried in ash. And at the center of the largest ruin, a faint energy signature pulsed, slow and steady, like a sleeping heart. Lena's breath caught. "It's still active," she whispered. She called Commander Jax Torin on a secure channel. His face appeared on a small screen. Tired eyes, short-cropped hair, the scar on his left cheek faint but visible. He was aboard the hidden orbital station Vigil, circling Earth in silence. "Lena," he said, "talk to me." Rourke's signal just went dark. "The Council cut all comms." "I know," she replied, "but I found something bigger. Xylos 9 isn't just a ruin. It's a key." She sent him the data. Jack studied it, his expression hardening. "This looks like precursor tech, the kind the Council says was lost forever." "It's more than that," Lena said. "I ran a DNA comparison. Human mitochondrial sequences. They match biological markers found in the ruined soil samples." "Not closely, exactly." Jax went still. "You're saying humans were there?"
"Not just there," Lena said.
"We were part of it. Maybe even the builders. That idea should have been impossible. Humans had only left Earth a century ago. Their history books said they evolved alone, on one planet under one sun. But the data didn't lie. And now, with Rourke trapped in the Council chamber, the truth was more urgent than ever. Lena pulled up another file, genetic archives from global biobanks. She isolated a dormant sequence in human DNA, one labeled non-coding junk by old textbooks, But when she exposed it to simulated Xylos 9 radiation frequencies, the sequence lit up. It wasn't junk. It was a lock, and something out there could unlock it. Meanwhile, on the Vigil, Jax gave quiet orders. Small, fast ships, scouts and interceptors, began powering up in hidden bays. They weren't built for war, not yet. But they were ready to move if Rourke needed rescue, or if Earth needed to act. Back in Antarctica, Lena made a risky decision. She activated a low-power resonance pulse, tuned to the same frequency as the Xylos 9 signal. It wouldn't broadcast far, just enough to test a theory. Within minutes, alarms blared in the lab. Not danger alarms, discovery alarms. One of her volunteers, a young engineer named Milo, collapsed in the testing chamber. When they rushed to him, he was awake but changed. His eyes were wide, unfocused, speaking in a voice that wasn't his own. The sky burned, he said in a language no one recognized. Then, in broken English, "We tried to stop them. They broke the covenant, so we silenced the stars." Lena recorded everything. Milo drew symbols on the floor. Complex, geometric matching carvings from Xylos 9. He spoke of a memory engine, a device that could awaken dormant knowledge in any being with the right genetic key. Humans had it. That's why the Council feared them. Because humans weren't just remembering history, they were remembering power. Lena sent the recording to Jax. "This isn't just about Rourke anymore," she said. "The Council didn't isolate us because we were weak. They did it because we're dangerous when we remember who we really are." Jax nodded slowly. "Then we give them something to fear." He authorized a new plan. Using the Odyssey's last known coordinates, they would send a microsignal, a mimic of the Xylos 9 beacon, directly into the Council chamber. Not to attack, to remind, to trigger the same ancestral memory in the alien delegates that Milo had experienced. It was a gamble. If it failed, the Council might destroy Earth before sunrise. But if it worked, the truth would spread like fire. As Lena prepared the final transmission, she looked out the lab's reinforced window. The Antarctic sky was dark, filled with stars. One of them, Krylus Prime, held Rourke. Another, Xylos 9, held the past. And Earth, small and blue, held the future. She typed the final command. The signal began to build. In orbit, Jax watched his fleet come alive, engines glowing faintly in the void. They wouldn't fire unless ordered. But they were ready, and deep in the ice, Milo sat quietly, humming a tune no human had heard in 10,000 years. A lullaby from a time when Earth ruled the stars, and the galaxy obeyed its voice. The Council thought they had buried that era, but memory, once awakened, cannot be silenced again, and humanity was just beginning to remember. Tension filled the Galactic Council chamber like thick smoke. The air itself seemed to vibrate with unspoken fear. Captain Elias Rourke stood calm in the center, but his mind raced. He had seen the flicker in Valrys's crystalline form when the signal from Earth was mentioned. The Council was not united. Some members wanted to silence humanity forever. Others looked uneasy, as if they had long suspected the truth but dared not speak it. The warlord from the Vorn hegemony slammed a heavy fist on his armrest. "This is madness. One human stands before us and you all tremble like hatchlings in a storm."
He has no fleet.
"No army, no power." Rourke turned slowly. "Power isn't always loud," he said. "Sometimes it's quiet, like a seed growing in the dark. You never see it until it cracks the stone." Before the warlord could reply, the Gilean envoy spoke again, its voice soft but urgent. "The signal from Sol. It matches the old recall frequency, the one used during the Sundering." A hush fell over the chamber. Even the Vorn warlord fell silent. The Sundering was a forbidden topic, a war so ancient, so terrible that all records of it had been erased. Only whispers remained. Valrys turned its full attention to Rourke. "You do not understand what you have awakened," it projected, its mental voice strained. "That frequency does not call allies. It calls judgment. And who judged first?" Rourke asked. "You locked us away. You erased our past. You watched us suffer while you built your perfect galaxy on lies. If judgment comes, maybe it's yours." The word struck deep. Several delegates shifted in their seats. One, a small avian-like being from the Trell Concord, lowered its feathered head. It had long argued that the Veil Accord was unjust. Now it saw proof. Outside the chamber, hidden in the shadow of Krylus Prime's rings, Commander Jax Torin watched the situation unfold through a long-range sensor feed. The signal from Earth had been sent. It was weak but precise, aimed directly at the council chamber's resonance core. If it worked, the alien leaders would feel something stir in their own blood. Not human memory, but echoes of the war they had tried to forget. Back on Earth, Lena Mirza monitored the transmission from her lab. Milo sat beside her, eyes closed, still humming that ancient tune. His body acted like a receiver, picking up faint psychic ripples from the signal's activation. "They're feeling it," Milo whispered suddenly. "The ones who were there. They remember." Lena held her breath. The plan was working. Inside the chamber, the Umar Collective's gelatinous form began to pulse erratically. Its thoughts spilled into the shared mental space. The skyfire. The silent cities. The humans with eyes like stars. Gasps echoed through the room. The Umar were among the oldest species in the galaxy. If they remembered, the truth could no longer be denied. Valris raised its arms, trying to restore order. "Enough, this is a trick. Human trickery." But the damage was done. Doubt had taken root. Rourke stepped forward again. "It's not a trick. It's a mirror. You've spent thousands of years pretending the past didn't happen, but we never forgot. Not really. It's in our bones. In our dreams. In the way we build, heal, and fight. You thought we were primitive because we valued life over conquest. But that's not weakness. That's what made us the Guardians." "Guardians," the Vorn warlord sneered. "You barely survived your own planet." "We survived because we learned," Rourke said. "While you built empires on fear, we built communities on trust. While you erased your enemies, we tried to understand them. And when the real threat came, the one that broke your ancestors, you ran." We stood, silence. Then from the far side of the chamber, a new voice spoke. It was the Trell envoy. "What threat?" it asked, its voice trembling. "What truly happened during the sundering?" All eyes turned to Valris. The speaker hesitated. For the first time, its light dimmed almost to black. "It is not for us to say," it finally projected. "Then I will," Rourke said. He reached into his uniform pocket and pulled out a small device, no bigger than a coin. It glowed faintly blue. "This is a memory shard, recovered from Xylos 9. It contains a single moment from the last day of the old alliance. I won't force you to see it, but if you want the truth, look." He placed the shard on the floor. It floated upward, spinning slowly, projecting a soft light. Valris did not stop him. One by one, the delegates leaned forward. Even the Vorn warlord watched, eyes narrowed. The light expanded into a vision, a vast space station shaped like a blooming flower, orbiting a bright blue star. Humans walked among aliens, tall, gentle, respected. They were not slaves, not servants. They were leaders. Then a fleet appeared on the edge of the system. Ships unlike any seen before, black, silent, devouring light. The station's defenses failed within minutes. But the humans did not flee. They activated something deep in the core of the station. A pulse of golden energy spread outward, not destroying the enemy, but changing them. Rewriting their minds. Turning rage into peace, but the cost was great. The pulse burned out the humans' own neural pathways. Most died. The survivors lost their memories, their history, their connection to the stars. The vision faded. The chamber was utterly still. "The council wasn't formed to bring peace," Rourke said quietly. "It was formed by those who betrayed the Alliance. You didn't hide Earth to protect the galaxy. You hid it to protect yourselves from the shame of what you did." The Trell envoy stood. "We were part of that betrayal," it admitted, voice breaking. "Our ancestors helped silence the humans. We thought it was mercy, but it was fear." Valris remained silent, its form now dull and gray. Rourke looked at each delegate in turn. "The signal from Earth isn't a weapon. It's an invitation. To remember, to heal, to choose a new path." Outside Jax's fleet held position, engines idling. No shots fired, no threats made. Just presence. Just readiness. And in the chamber, for the first time in millennia, the truth hung in the air. Naked, painful, and impossible to ignore. The council was fractured. But humanity had not come to break it. They had come to rebuild it, and the choice now belonged to those who had lied for too long. Deep beneath the ice of Antarctica, the air in the research dome grew colder, though the heaters worked hard to keep it warm. Dr. Lena Mirza stood over a large circular table, her hands resting on its smooth surface. Around her, holographic images floated, maps of the galaxy, strands of human DNA and the ruins of Xylos 9. But the most important image was a simple, pulsing sphere of light, the design of the memory engine. Milo sat nearby, eyes closed, fingers tracing invisible lines in the air. Since the signal had been sent to the council chamber, he had been slipping in and out of deep trances, speaking fragments of forgotten tongues, drawing symbols no living being had seen in ages. Each time he woke, he remembered more. They didn't just build it to remember, Milo said suddenly, his voice thin but clear. They built it to share, to make sure no one could lie again. Lena nodded. That was the key. The memory engine wasn't a weapon. It was a truth teller. Once activated, it would broadcast the full memory of the Sundering, not just to humans, but to every sentient mind in the galaxy. Not as a story, as a feeling, as a lived experience. The council couldn't hide behind laws or lies if every being suddenly remembered what really happened. But activating it was dangerous. If done wrong, it could overload neural systems, cause panic, even madness. The ancients had locked it away for a reason. We need to test it, Lena said. Not on the whole galaxy. Just a small group, volunteers. She already had a list. Scientists, pilots, medics. People trained to handle stress with strong mental discipline. They would enter the resonance chamber one by one and be exposed to a low-level pulse from a prototype engine built from Xylos 9 schematics Milo had drawn. The first volunteer was a young medic named Tariq. He stepped into the chamber without hesitation. The door sealed behind him. Lena activated the pulse for 10 seconds. Nothing happened. Then Tariq gasped. His eyes flew open wide with awe and terror. He fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. I saw them, he whispered. The humans. They weren't fighting. They were healing. Even as the black ships came, they tried to save everyone, even the ones who betrayed them. When he came out, he couldn't stop shaking, but he was calm, clear, changed. One by one, the others went in. Each emerged with the same look, humbled, awakened, certain. Lena knew then that the engine worked, and it was safe if used with care, but time was running out. Rourke was still in the council chamber. The signal they'd sent had shaken the delegates, but it wasn't enough. They needed the full truth, and Earth needed to be ready for whatever came next. She contacted Jax. The engine is ready, she said. We can broadcast it from orbit. A single pulse tuned to the galactic resonance band. Every species with a developed mind will receive it. Jax was silent for a long moment. If we do this, there's no going back. The council might see it as an act of war. Or as an act of peace, Lena replied. They've lived in fear of the truth. Maybe it's time they faced it. Jax exhaled. Then we do it. But not from Earth, too risky. I'll move the Vigil to the dark side of Luna. Launch the broadcast from there. If they retaliate, they'll hit an empty station. Not our home, Lena agreed. Within hours, the prototype engine, no bigger than a suitcase, was loaded onto a shuttle and sent to the Vigil. Engineers worked fast, linking it to the station's main transmitter. Milo went with it, his presence somehow stabilizing the device's energy field. Back in the council chamber, Rourke sensed the shift. The delegates were no longer shouting. They were whispering, arguing in low tones. Some looked ashamed, others angry, but none denied the vision anymore. Palris finally spoke. If what you say is true, then the veil was a crime. It was, Rourke said, but crimes can be forgiven, if those who committed them choose to make things right. The Trell envoy stepped forward. What do you ask of us? Nothing, Rourke said. We don't want your seats, your power, your titles. We only ask that you stop lying. To yourselves, to your people, to us. Before anyone could respond, a new alert flashed in the chamber, a priority signal from deep space. Falris read it, and its light flickered wildly. The Sol System, they are preparing a broadcast. On the precursor resonance band, the Vorn warlord roared. They're attacking. No, Rourke said firmly. They're offering you a choice, listen. Or remain blind. Panic spread. Some delegates called for immediate jamming. Others demanded to hear it. Falris raised a hand. Let it come. Far away aboard the Vigil, Jax gave the final order. Activate the engine. Milo placed his hands on the device. He didn't press a button. He simply whispered a word in the old tongue, one he'd never learned but always known. The engine hummed to life. A wave of golden light pulsed from the station, spreading outward at the speed of thought. It passed through planets, ships, and stars. It did not harm. It did not command, it simply remembered. On Earth, people stopped in the streets. Birds fell silent. In cities and villages, millions felt a sudden warmth in their chests. A flood of images, blue skies over ancient towers, hands clasped across species, a final sacrifice made not in anger, but in love. In the council chamber, every delegate cried out as the memory struck them, not as humans saw it, but as their own ancestors had lived it. The Trell envoy collapsed, sobbing. The Umar collective pulsed with golden light. Even the Vorn warlord dropped to one knee, his rage replaced by grief. Falris stood motionless, its crystalline body now glowing with the same golden hue as the engine's pulse. When the wave passed, silence returned, but it was a different kind of silence, not fear, not judgment, understanding. Rourke looked around the chamber. "Now you know," he said softly. "So what will you do with the truth?" No one answered right away. But for the first time, they were all looking at him, not as an intruder, but as a witness, as a reminder. And somewhere in the void, the memory engine continued to hum, its work just beginning. The golden light faded from the council chamber, but its warmth remained in the air, in the minds, in the hearts of every being present. No one moved for a long time. The memory had not just shown them the past, it had made them feel it. The hope of the old alliance, the horror of betrayal, the quiet courage of humans who chose peace even as the galaxy burned around them. Captain Elias Rourke stood still in the center, watching the change unfold. The Vorn warlord no longer glared. His armored shoulders slumped, his eyes wet with something deeper than anger. The Trell envoy wiped tears from its feathered face. Even Valrese, once cold and sharp like ice, now glowed with a soft, steady light, like a star remembering its purpose. Then, slowly, the speaker stepped down from its throne. It walked, not floated, not projected, but walked, on newly formed limbs of living crystal, until it stood face to face with Rourke. "We were wrong," Valrese said. Its voice no longer a mental echo, but a true sound, gentle and human-like. "Not just about you. About everything," Rourke nodded. "Knowing you were wrong is the first step. Making it right is the next." Outside the chamber, the Odyssey's systems flickered back to life. Not because the Council released it, but because Earth's signal had unlocked something in the ship's core, a dormant code left by the ancients. Lights glowed blue along its hull. It was no longer just a vessel. It was a symbol. On the vigil, Jax Torin watched the sensor readings with quiet awe. The broadcast had reached every inhabited world in the known galaxy. There were no explosions, no fleets scrambling to attack. Instead, comms channels lit up with questions, with confessions, with calls for truth. The lie was over. Back on Earth, people gathered in streets and homes in silence. They didn't cheer. They didn't panic. They simply remembered. Not all at once, not in full, but enough. Enough to know they were not alone. Enough to know they had once been guardians of something greater than themselves. In Antarctica, Lena Mirza turned off the main console. The work was done. Milo sat by the window watching the stars. "They're listening now," he said. "Yes," Lena replied. "And we're ready to speak." Inside the council chamber, Valrese turned to the other delegates. "The veil is broken. Not by force, but by truth. We cannot rebuild it, nor should we." The Trell envoy rose. "Then we must build something new. Not a council of rulers, but a circle of equals." One by one, the delegates agreed. Even the Vorn warlord gave a slow, solemn nod. If humans stood when all others ran, then they deserve a place at the center. Rourke shook his head. "Not the center, just a seat. Like everyone else. We don't want to rule. We only want to belong." Valrese placed a crystalline hand on Rourke's shoulder. The touch sent a ripple through the room. Not of power, but of connection. "Then let this be the first act of the new accord. Earth is no longer quarantined. Humanity is no longer hidden. You are seen. You are known, and you are welcome." A soft chime echoed through the chamber, the sound of a new protocol being written into the galaxy's core network. Across thousands of worlds, data streams updated, archives unlocked, history corrected. Rourke looked up at the swirling nebula light above. For the first time, he saw not judgment but possibility. Meanwhile, on the vigil, Jax received a message, not from Earth, but from a dozen alien systems. Requests for contact, offers of trade, questions about memory, healing, and the old ways. He smiled faintly. The age of fear was ending. The age of understanding was beginning. Back in the chamber, Rourke was given a small device, a key shaped like a spiral. "This opens the Hall of Records," Valrus said. "All of it. The truth, the mistakes, the hopes. It is yours to read and to share." Rourke accepted it. "We'll share it all. The good and the bad, because that's how trust begins." As he stepped off the platform, the obsidian doors opened once more, but this time they did not seal behind him. They stayed open, wide, bright, inviting. Outside, his ship waited, engines humming softly. But he didn't board it right away. He stood on the balcony of the council spire, looking out at the ringed planet below and the stars beyond. Earth was just a pale dot in the distance, but he could feel it. Alive, awake, whole. The galaxy had spent millennia afraid of what humanity might become. Now it would learn what humanity had always been. Not conquerors, not victims, but keepers of memory, builders of bridges, and defenders of peace even when no one else believed in it. Far away on a quiet hill in Kenya, a child looked up at the night sky and whispered a word she'd never heard before, but somehow knew. "Remember." And the stars answered, not with thunder, but with light. The council would meet again soon, not to judge but to plan, to heal, to rebuild. And this time a human voice would be part of every decision. Captain Elias Rourke finally walked toward his ship. He didn't look back. He didn't need to. The future was ahead, and for the first time in 10,000 years it was shared.